My husband discovered my affair and the truth about our son's real father. Now, my life is unraveling faster than I can hold it together, and I'm desperate to find a way to fix the damage I've caused. Let me start with this. I'm not here for your judgment. I just need to vent. I, 34F, have been married to my husband, 33M, for 10 years. Initially, our relationship and marriage were great. I felt happy and appreciated. But things have changed. Our intimacy started to decline about 3 years ago, and now it's almost non-existent. It made me feel very unattractive and unloved. Our relationship was a struggle for me because I just felt so frustrated all the time. We argued frequently about our lack of intimacy. One day, in a moment of weakness, I slept with a coworker. It made me feel desired and wanted again, but I was overwhelmed with guilt. I continued the affair, and it turned emotional and lasted for about 2 years. During that time, I found out I was pregnant with my son, now 2 years old. I was torn between leaving my husband and starting a life with my coworker, who was my son's biological father. In the end, I chose to cut ties with my coworker, but I never told my husband about the affair or the true paternity of our son. Secretly, I let my coworker see our son when my husband was not home, which fills me with guilt. My husband has no idea, and he loves our son deeply, but he doesn't know the truth. Since our son was born, our relationship is better than it ever was before. My husband treats me so kindly and tells me all the time that me and our son are the most important things in his life and that he is so glad he made me his wife. But deep down, I'm terrified. Every time my phone rings, my heart races. Every time my husband mentions the future, I feel like I'm sinking deeper into a lie. There were nights where I almost told him, times when the weight of my secret was so crushing that I could barely breathe, but fear always won. I couldn't risk him leaving. I couldn't handle breaking our family apart. Everything I feared has happened. My husband found out the truth about our son. It happened so unexpectedly. Apparently, my son's biological father told somebody about our affair and that my husband was raising his kid. This person contacted my husband through Facebook and told him everything he knew. Before confronting me, my husband spent weeks pretending everything was normal. But something was off. He became quieter, distant even, and there were times when I'd catch him just staring at me, like he was seeing me for the first time. I didn't realize that he had already hired a private investigator. The investigator took photos of my son's biological father hugging my son and leaving our house. My husband had gathered evidence before he confronted me. I was cornered and had no choice but to confess to everything. Watching his face crumble in that moment was one of the most painful things I've ever experienced. The man who had loved our son unconditionally now knew the truth, and his world shattered. He left immediately, and the silence that followed was deafening. A few days later, I received divorce papers. I couldn't believe it, but I knew I had no defense. I spoke to a lawyer, hoping to at least keep some part of my life intact, but the news was even more devastating. Since we live in an at-fault state, I'm not entitled to much. The lawyer explained that given the circumstances, my husband might get the lion's share of our assets, including our home. Just as I was trying to process this, another blow hit me. My husband's sister, who had always been kind to me, turned against me completely. She made sure to spread the word about what I did, and soon, it wasn't just my marriage falling apart, but my entire social circle. Friends who used to support me now avoided me. Even my own family seemed unsure how to respond, with some blaming me outright and others saying nothing at all. The fallout was relentless. One day, I found myself at the grocery store with my son, and I overheard 2 women whispering about me. They knew. The entire town seemed to know. Every look I received felt like judgment, like they were all waiting for me to crumble under the weight of my own guilt. My world is now crumbling around me. My husband has already found an apartment and is avoiding any contact with me, only communicating through his lawyer. He's also demanding a paternity test to formalize what we both already know. Our son, who once brought him so much joy, is now a painful reminder of my betrayal. My son's biological father has distanced himself completely. He wants nothing to do with the mess I've created. Even worse, my husband started dating someone new almost immediately after the separation. I saw them together by accident at a park I used to take our son to. They looked so happy. It was as if my husband had already erased me from his life. I'm left alone with nothing but regret and the remnants of a life I once had. The house, which was once filled with love and laughter, now feels cold and empty. I've lost everything: my husband, the stability I took for granted, and any hope for a future with the man I once loved. The weight of my actions is crushing, and there's no one to blame but myself. My life is in ruins, and I don't know how to pick up the pieces. If you would just talk to me, we could get through this. I can fix it. If you just let me, we can continue to be a family, with this just being a small hiccup in our marriage. But now, I don't even know if I believe that anymore.